Alright, and I have returned with more TamenTCG, except there is a difference now. These are no longer going to be the cards that are portrayed as the game progresses. It will now be this. So, for those who have seen the cards before, I'm going to show it again. This is what the cards look like before. It's kind of like I'd say it's like an old style, more complex looking kind of card game. It works, but there's just so much with it that when I decided to make a few changes, I just kind of went overhaul and was like, all right, let me just simplify it, just because. So the biggest simplification is that the stats are removed from the cards except for range, because range is something that's very important in the game. It's something that is needed in order to keep the overall objective from not being completely broken, which is to attack the opponent directly. There are no life points, there's no keeping track of anything. It's just, get rid of the monsters, get at your opponent. And there are a few changes that makes this a little bit simpler while still being complex enough to be to where like you have to have strategy. It's not just you have to have the biggest monster and stuff, or there's like that one card that just kind of ruins the game or something. That'll happen eventually, but it's like it's not one of those games where you just got to get that one card and everything will be fine. It's not. That's a lot more complex than that, or that's what I'm hoping. And because of the change of the game itself, I had to make new gear cards. So every gear card that I've used before at this point in time is null and void. It has no use in the current format of the game because it is completely changed. Most of them worked on the terms of stats, and since stats are no longer a thing except for range, a lot of them just don't work. So I got to figure out how I would be able to transfer them and use them in a more proper way. This might be a two-part video because I know some of these videos don't do well as long. Although I know that when the actual cards are shown, the videos tend to do better. So I might, maybe not, I don't know. And then next, you can see here, these two things here. This is just so I've written text out for some of these, but I wanted to keep it simple for the test play. So I'm going to try and test play this before I start going all in on it like last time. And here, this is where like context words and key things were key phrases, so that you knew like what to look for, what the card does, how to do it, and all that stuff. So I don't know if I want to go over the rules. Will be something I definitely do in like another part. So again, I'll wait for that. But right now, here's the changes to the game. Cost is still used for summoning, but now it is also used for abilities. Yeah, it's now also used for abilities, except for this one guy here, Volcano Golem. I wanted to try something different. He's like the only one like that, so he might be something that kind of breaks the game and is something of an outlier. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how well it works yet. But as you can see here, 2 costs, and Infernus Draco will be able to strike 2 times. Striker 2. This time it can strike twice. So the double strike feature that I put in the game still applies to a certain degree, but there is a difference. Because you have to use cost, which is this number here, in order to use it, instead of being at 4, Infernus Draco would be at 2. So cost does get reduced, and that's how you use abilities, resources, and it's also his attack power. So he would be at an attack power of 2, meaning that he couldn't take out another Infernus Draco. He wouldn't be able to take out a Volcanic Golem. He wouldn't be able to take out Infernus Wyvern. And if he were to try to take out Sheertan, it would be a draw, but it would be like, both creatures get sent to the discard pile. And then Spire's Right is a 1. So yeah, now there's also cost 1 creatures because now it's a thing that can be used. Before it couldn't be used because it was just a slew of things that could happen, and I didn't want that happening. So, but now that it's a little bit more controlled, because you got to keep track of resources, this is a thing that can happen. Range is still the same. You need range in order to attack a creature. 2 is going to be the most common range that you get in the game because it's like right in the middle. 2 and 3. 2 is like it's 1 through 5, and 2 and 3 is like the middle point. So 3 will definitely be like for the higher. 3 will be more of a rarity, while 2 is like more common. Then you'll have like 1 and 3, or 1 and 4, and barely ever have a 5. Sheer Tan is a 2. I don't know. Maybe you should be a 1 now. I'll keep him at a 2. I do want to put some variety, but at the same time, it's like, well, this might make it easier for people to play, and then once people start getting the grasp of it, then I can start changing it around. So I'll keep it that way for now. They still keep their species stuff, so Beast Dragon, Humanoid, Golem Construct, etc., etc. That's going to be used later on. These are two different texts. That's something I gotta look back into because that shouldn't be. That's very clear. This is clear as well, but it's a lot thicker and it's a lot smaller. So I gotta see what that's about. But anyway, and as I said before, the stance abilities A, B, G. These are abilities that can only be used in these certain stances on the field, but I won't put those in until after I get like a initial test play started. Anything else I want to talk about? I guess the gear. The gear is completely changed. One, there are no elemental specific gear because I was trying to get this out as fast as possible while still trying to test out what it is I'm trying to see with the gear. So there will be elemental gear, just not at this point in the game. Uh, the difference you can see here is that just like with the creatures, they have cost as well. This is how much it takes in order to use the card, meaning that if you want to use this specific card, you'd have to use two cost from any given creature. So let's say you had Thimbleback Sink Turtle on the field and you wanted to use this card. I won't explain what it does because it'll just probably be out of context and it'll be more confusing. But let's say you wanted to use that, you could use the two from it and make it a one, or you could use the one from it and the one from Graceful Mermaid. It would be at a two, Graceful Mermaid would be at a one, but you could still use the card, and their stats would go back at like the draw phase or something. Yeah, like at the end of every turn, all the stats kind of return to where they were, and you'd have to try and continue your strategy again, just so that it's easier to keep track of everything. There are still gear types like triggers. So triggers you have to set face down on the board before you use it, and then once you flip it up, as long as you have the proper cost or the proper requirement for the card to activate, you can do it. So like the cost of the ally becomes the cost of the striking rival. So let's say if Fire Sprite were to be attacked by Infernus Draco, then you could use Equalizer, put Fire Sprite at 4, and they would both destroy each other. Or you could do vice versa, attack with Fire Sprite into Infernus and Draco, and then trigger this off, destroying both creatures and end it that way. I don't know if I'm going to explain all the cards right now. I think I'll do that in another video because this video will probably be way too long in order to explain how all this works. But yeah, and there are also like revival cards and stuff and things to shift around your power and all that stuff. So all these cards kind of mess with how the newer system of the game works. And like I just said, I'm going to explain that in another video. But I wanted to make this video in order to just explain that TamenTCG is continuing for now, because there might be something else that comes around the corner and I got to stop again. But TCG will be continuing. It'll be continuing as a whole new thing. I will be continuing the creation and the production of things and finding test players in order to get the game tested. But with that said, I'm going to end this video here, and then I will get started on explaining how the new version of TamenTCG should work.